What's up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of The Unemployables. Today we sit down with Nate Schmidt. He's a 22-year-old. He dropped out of college a couple years ago to pursue his dreams of, for lack of a better term, online entrepreneurship, doing some freelance, some drop shipping, all kinds of stuff. We talk a lot about mindset. We talk a lot about business. We talk about marketing, all of it. So tune on in.
Become unemployable.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Unemployables podcast. Today, we've got Nate Schmidt joining us from Twitterland and also North Carolina. Nate, thanks so much for joining us. We're really pumped to have you on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It should be fun.
Yeah, of course. So usually how we start this is that I love getting to know people's stories from top to bottom. I feel like it helps me get to understand them better. So can you tell us a little bit about, you're not really a 9-to-5 guy, which is a lot of the people that we talk to. You kind of skip that step in the process, which, I mean, good on you for that. But tell us a little bit about your upbringing, how you went from being some schmuck in North Carolina to, Mr. Twitterverse.
Yeah, and how you quit college too. How you dropped out.
Yeah.
All that.
Okay, so bringing it all the way back. So I was born in outside of Chicago back in 1997. So I'm 22 years old now.
God.
I only lived in Chicago for like 3 years until my parents moved us down to North Carolina. Then I grew up here outside of Raleigh pretty much my whole life. I would say I had a pretty average upbringing. My parents weren't like, super rich or super poor, pretty much like upper middle class. I would say I had a pretty fantastic upbringing, great parents, great friends, great location. The place that I live, outside of Raleigh is like in my opinion, is one of the best areas ever. Like it's so beautiful and it's just like very family friendly, I guess. So really enjoyed my childhood, had a great upbringing. And then basically, so I kind of grew up and my parents were both entrepreneurs. So my mom, owns a medical weight loss clinic. And my dad, I guess he's not technically an entrepreneur anymore, but he used to own like an IT company. So I kind of grew up around my parents, basically having their own businesses, being able to make their own schedules and kind of having that sort of freedom that I saw that, a lot of my other, friends growing up, their parents didn't have. So I saw that and I was like, okay, so this seems like, the way to go, right? Like you work for yourself, make more money, and you can make your own schedule, stuff like that. So I was like, all right, this seems like the way to go. So I knew I wanted to do that. Since a pretty young age, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur and kind of start my own business and stuff. Problem is I didn't really do anything about it. So I kind of went through high school, didn't really do anything, like, mowed lawns and like had like a little side car detailing business with one of my buddies. We made like maybe like $2 or $3 grand throughout the course of that. Honestly, I was really just like lazy. I think I was really like entitled, and I just kind of thought that because, I was like relatively smart and like, I had a good upbringing and stuff like that, that I was kind of entitled to, a certain way of life without actually doing any sort of work. So I was kind of in that stage until I was about 20. So then I graduated high school, and then I went to NC State University, and then I spent, the next like 2.5 years, drinking, partying, hanging out with friends, whatever, joined a fraternity. Had the college experience the right way. Wouldn't change a thing about it. It was so much fun. But then I kind of started realizing, so I was fortunate enough, my parents paid for my first 2 years of college. So I didn't have to take out any student loans. I was straight. I was like not thinking about it at all. Like, this is awesome. Basically, my parents are paying for me to party, scrape by, this is great. And then after 2 years, they kind of dropped it on me. They were like, okay, so you have to start paying for your own stuff now. We're not going to pay for your college. We're not going to pay for your room and board. You have to take out loans and, basically you're on your own. So that was after my sophomore year. So I went to junior year having to take out student loans. And then I realized like, oh shit, like this is a lot. Like this is a lot of money that I'm owed. And I was just, completely blind to that. And I'm really grateful that it happened this way, because I don't think I'd be in the position I am now if my parents had kept paying for my college, or if they had made me pay for everything from the start. Basically, it was like this kind of wake up call, like, oh shit, stuff in the real world costs money. Like this is a real thing. I can't just be, delivering pizza, buying beer. Like I actually have student loans now. Like I have all these, expenses and stuff. I started realizing like maybe maybe the path I'm on, isn't the best, because I knew I wanted to do something on my own. Like I said, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, start my own business, but I was going to school for marketing, and I was like, so the path I'm on now, if I just keep doing this, I'm going to graduate and then I'm going to get a job, working at a marketing firm or whatever. I was like, okay, I don't want to fucking do that. Like I was honestly like deathly afraid of that, because I've kind of had like authority issues, I guess. I've gotten fired from like, I don't know how many jobs.
Nice.
I don't like people telling me what to do. And whenever I see something happening and I want, or, I can be done better, then I'm very vocal about it. And people don't tend to like that when you come into their business and you tell them how to run it when you're, a shithead 20-year-old kid. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So that didn't work out too well. So then I started realizing like, okay, so I need to figure something out. And I was fortunate enough, this is kind of how I got into, online business. Was one of my roommates at the time, he showed me Wall Street Playboys, which was really my first introduction into all this online business stuff. And that was right around the time that they released their book Efficiency. So I read that, and then that was kind of the thing that made me aware of how all this stuff works. Like it wasn't, super in depth about the specific tactics of everything necessarily, but it just kind of opened my eyes to this whole world of like, oh shit, you Google something, someone's making money off that, right? You click on, you go to a site, you look up a product and you look up a review, and you click on that link, you buy it, someone made money off that. And then I, started realizing how affiliate stuff works and how e-com works and all this other stuff. And that was when I was like, okay, so, this is it. Like, this is how I'm going to get out of, this path I'm on. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to be able to support myself without actually having to, work for someone else. And that was also right about the same time, I think, they kind of introduced me to copywriting. And that immediately, like, once I learned what copywriting was, I was absolutely hooked, because the idea to me of being able to switch around some words on a page and be able to, change people's behavior, the way that they act, the things that they do, that was just a really intoxicating concept to me, of being able to, like, it almost sounds like manipulative, and in a way it kind of is. But just that concept of being able to influence people and persuade people to do things that they normally wouldn't do just by using words was the coolest thing to me. So I went really, really heavy on that for like, I don't know, 3-4 months. I was in school. I was actually, that was my first semester junior year. And I ended up actually doing better in school then than I had the entire, previous 2 years. I think I had like an average GPA before that of like 2.8 or something like that. And then this one semester I got like a 3.9, and I was like, cause I was paying for it. Like I realized I was paying for it.
You were focused.
And I was also spending a shit ton of time in the library. Yeah. I was very focused, and I was spending so much time in the library, learning about copywriting and online business and stuff. And I like the way that I kind of structured it was like, okay, so I'll go to the library, I'll get all my schoolwork done. And then once I'm done with that, then I can start, learning all this stuff. So that's what I did. And so I spent kind of that whole semester, like basically like in recluse mode. Like my friends would make jokes about like me being in the library all the time. Like, what are you doing in the library? And they thought I was like hooking up with one of the librarians or something. That was the ongoing joke. But yeah, so that was kind of how I got into it. And then I just kind of realized like, okay, so I've learned all this stuff. Now I actually need to go out and take action on it. Like I kind of had this realization that for the longest time I've wanted to start a business. I've wanted to become an entrepreneur. I've wanted to do this and do that, but I haven't actually done anything. Mm-hmm. So I actually took that stuff, and then I, figured out that, okay, so I can go out and I can use this to make other people more money. I can go out and be a freelancer and write emails specifically is what I, chose to do, is to write emails for, businesses to make them more money. So that's kind of what I did. And I went out and I just started cold pitching like everyone that I could, I could figure out. I was like looking around my room, looking at the products that I had in my room and be like, oh, that company's cool. They're dope. I like them. I could write emails for them. So I sent them a pitch. And obviously most of them said no, most of them didn't, reply at all. But eventually I was able to land like 1, 2, 3 clients, doing that, making like a couple grand a month. So that was really cool. And that kind of made me realize like, oh shit, this is a real thing. Like I can actually do this. I can actually make money online. And, I was still in school at the time. And then I met a couple guys who kind of, mentored me. The main 2 guys were Nabil Aziz. I don't know if you guys have heard of him on Twitter, the Dubai's most expensive copywriter, I think is his tagline. And then Scotty, James Holt, the man formerly known as James Holt.
Yeah.
And they kind of both, I somehow was able to convince them to kind of, give me some one-on-one help when I needed it. And that was huge. And it kind of made me realize, like, Nabil gave me this advice to build another source of income outside of freelancing, because he said that, if I'm trying to get freelancing clients, if I don't have any other source of income, then I'm going to be needy, and I'm, not going to be able to get clients, as effectively. So this whole time, I'm delivering pizza at this pizza place, basically just like, balancing that, school, and, trying to do this online business stuff. And then, off that advice that Nabil gave me, that was kind of when I started looking more into drop shipping. And then that's also when I came across Scotty, and started getting his help and stuff. And then I immediately just, like, so quickly within like a week, just set up a store and started running ads. It sorted terribly. I think I lost like probably a couple $100 on that. But then, that one failed, and then I kind of learned from it. And then I started a new one, and basically, like, that one just, like, took off. I guess I skipped a little part there. When I started that first store, right, I was making like maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a month from copywriting. And I was still, delivering pizza. But then I started trying drop shipping, and I made my first sale on that store that failed, which was for $6.95. And actually, if you go all the way back in my Twitter, like in my media, I tweeted it. I said, like, I had tweeted a screenshot of it. It's like fucking 9 to 5.
I remember that. Yeah.
And it was $6.95. I probably spent like $30 on ads to get the sale. So it was like nowhere near profitable.
Yeah.
But I like thought to myself, I was like, okay, so if I can make one sale basically knowing nothing, then if I dedicate, every single hour of the day to this, then I can probably figure this out, and I can probably support myself from this. So I called my parents, and I was like, yo, can we meet for dinner? I want to talk to you guys about something. And basically was able to
all the same day.
All the same day. This is really
That's
and
awesome.
it was also, and that day was also the first day. That was the first day of my second semester of junior year. So we met for dinner, and then I somehow convinced them to basically let me, like, take a semester off school, to, try my hand at this stuff. And it was basically, the deal was, if I could support myself, by the end of it, then, they couldn't really tell me what to do, right? If I can support myself, then, you can't really tell me what to fucking do. I'm not relying on you. At the time, the only thing that they were paying for was my rent. So we made a deal where it was like, all right, I'll pay for everything, all my stuff, just help me with half my rent for these, 4 months. And if I can support myself by the end of it, then fantastic. I can do whatever the hell I want. You guys can't tell me to go back to school if I can support myself. But if I can't figure it out, then I'll go back to school. I'll finish like you guys want me to, et cetera, et cetera. And somehow, I think I used some of my copywriting stuff that I learned to convince them to do that. That is a very good deal.
Sales is everywhere.
Yeah, but that was basically the deal. So then from that point on, I kind of just like stopped going to class and literally dedicated all of my time to online business. And then, a month later, I created that second store that ended up, actually working. And then it just absolutely blew up beyond my wildest dreams. And then, all the while I was tweeting about it, and I had my email list, because one of the first guys that I really learned from was Ben Settle. And that was kind of the thing that he preaches is, build an email list, email it daily, et cetera, et cetera. So I started doing that even before I was even making money, from other avenues. And just kind of sharing what I was doing, and like the mistakes I had made, things I had learned, stuff like that. And then it just kind of ballooned up into this whole thing on Twitter, my email list, and everything like that. And I was just kind of documenting what I was doing, and it just turned into something way bigger than I ever expected. And then that was pretty much the story. That was like really long. But that's pretty much the story of like how I got into, this whole online business stuff, how I got to where I am now, and everything like that.
Hell yeah. There's
awesome.
There's so much I want to do.
I know there's so much to unpack. First random question. It won't take long. What part of Chicago is your family originally from?
Like southwest suburbs.
Okay.
Like Downers Grove, Palos Park, that area.
My dad was born and raised in Downers Grove.
Really?
Yeah. So I've spent a fair amount of time up there. He moved to Atlanta when he was in high school, but yeah, so we still got a ton of family up that way. Small world.
Yeah, it's a small world. I meet so many people who are from that area, who have family from that area. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
From right around there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know exactly where, but somewhere. So you actually, what's funny, you remind me a lot of my brother. He's a 19, well, actually, he just turned 20 like 2 weeks ago. But he's about to be a sophomore in college, and he's kind of running into that same wall that you did, where you're like, mom and dad are still paying for everything, and he's slowly kind of realizing that like there's a lot of money moving around, and he's going to have to figure it out pretty soon. And he's going to school, and he's like, I don't know if I like this. So he actually started his first drop shipping store about a month ago, maybe a little bit longer. I sent him your first course that you did. I forget what it's called. Not Brain Dead Simple.
Ecom Crash Copy.
Ecom Copy Crash course.
Yeah, because I bought a copy of that a couple of years or last year, and it really helped me with mine, or not with my with my coffee, but
right. Yeah, man, I was really hesitant to put that out too, because I'd obviously only been doing this stuff for a very short period of time. And I was like really hesitant because I was like, well, how are people going to receive this? Like, am I even qualified to be able to be teaching this? And I think like ultimately the answer is probably no. Like I probably didn't have enough experience. That probably wasn't the best idea, but that was ultimately what I wanted to do. And I think I sort of have like a gift, I guess, of being able to, to like teach stuff. And I realized that, through that, and then, I just had nothing but great reviews about it. And everyone was saying, they were getting these results and everything like that. And I was like, all right, so I thought that this wasn't going to work out very well, but it actually did. And that was actually originally kind of what I wanted to do outside of ecom is I wanted to do information marketing, because that was what I saw Ben Settle do. And that was really my biggest, the guy I look up to the most. And that's originally what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, well, I can't really do that until I actually have success in, some other, area of business, right? You can't teach how to do something if you haven't actually done it.
Well, I think something that you do really well is that you know how to say things in a way that resonates with people. Like it's not necessarily like I bought that copy course. I mean, I'm 29. So like I've seen all sorts and read all sorts of stuff about copy. And like, I don't know that it's necessarily like, it wasn't that you didn't present anything revolutionary in that course, right? But it's the way that you look at it and the way that you communicate it to people that I think makes the difference. And I mean, that's the difference between a successful Twitter account even is the stuff that you're saying resonating with people? Or are you one of those people who says shit and people are like, you're a fucking idiot. Don't stop talking, please.
Like, even if it's the right thing, you say it wrong, it doesn't matter.
Right.
That's so true. And that was kind of like what, I don't know. I think that's why it worked out too, because I really tried to put things, I'm not, to this day, just like really put things in a very conversational way, just like I would, talk to you guys just like right now.
Yep.
Being able to write like that, people really,
not everyone can do that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy to me, because to me, it doesn't seem all that difficult. It's like, you talk all the time, don't you? Just write like that.
Yeah. Some people are more socially retarded than others though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh, retarded's not acceptable. My bad.
Yeah, can we swear on here? I feel like I've been swearing
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
What did your parents say when you had that conversation with them? Like, were they like, you're an idiot? Because I feel like most parents were like, no, you're out of your mind if you think we're going to let you do this. Like, we didn't sacrifice all this stuff over the years for you to just go fuck around for a semester. Like, what did they say?
So they were obviously like very against it. Like, as just about any, fucking parent probably would be. Kid dropping out of school, you don't really want to see that.
Right.
But I think they really saw how passionate I was about it, and how like I kind of just made it clear to them, like, I'm going to do this regardless. Like, this is something I really want to do. And ultimately, like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Like, if you guys wanted to stop me, you can try, but it's not going to work. Like, I think that they saw that kind of fire that I had in me. And, obviously I think it would be a little bit hypocritical of them to kind of like, to stop me from doing that, from pursuing that, when that's kind of the route that they both took. Yeah. Granted, like, my parents both went to school and they, graduated and stuff, but ultimately I think that they saw, what I wanted to do, and they saw that I had a vision for it. And I think that they, they kind of saw it as like, okay, and this is really how I presented it to them. And I really thought through this a lot, like with the copywriting stuff that I had learned was, okay, so how can I present this so that, how can I frame this so that it seems like, a very common sense thing, so it doesn't seem like super risky. And it worked out because I was actually like a semester ahead of I guess like my classmates from AP classes and AP credits in high school. So I basically presented as like, worst case scenario, I can't figure it out. I graduate with the rest of my class on time. Everything's good, whatever. So I think they saw that and they're like, okay, so really what's the worst that can happen? And that was really the goal that I set out to, to show them was, what's really the worst that can happen. And I also try to present it with that. And then also the idea of them not having to, give me any money for anything. And I think that they really like that idea because obviously they've been paying for my stuff since I was born. And I think that they like that idea as well. So they were definitely hesitant and they definitely said straight up no at first. But I think that ultimately they saw, my persistence and how I really wanted to do that and how I wasn't going to take no for an answer. And I think that ultimately they were like, all right, fine, reluctantly, just do it.
Yeah, that's cool because I don't think every parent would come to that conclusion. I think a lot of them would just be like, nope. If you want any support from me, you got to do what I say.
Coming from experience, Dan, no, not every parent would.
Right.
I will say this, that this is like a little personal, but like I think this is part of it. Is my parents got divorced when I was like 13 or so.
Uh-huh.
And so I live with my mom, most of the time. And basically like after they got divorced, like my dad was the strict one. So after they got divorced, I think this is a common theme. I've talked to a couple people who've said, stuff like this, but like when your parents get divorced and your dad, especially was a strict one and you live with your mom, like, 90% of the time, like 90% of the rules just go out the fucking window.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Oh, 100%.
She's busy working. She has all her shit going on. She's just trying to, support the family and everything like that. And then, when you're older and you have kind of, I guess like some autonomy and you're more independent, like they kind of just want to let you do your own thing. So I'd say that was definitely part of it because I don't think that if my parents were still together, I think my dad would have just shut that down and said absolutely not. But by that time, he didn't really have nearly as much of a say, I guess, over what I did as my mom did. And she was just kind of like, all right, fine.
My parents got divorced when I was in 5th grade. So I think I was like 10 or 11 and it was the same thing. Like my mom was the strict one, but it was that same kind of deal. Like I lived half and half and like I would get grounded at my mom's place and then I would go back to my dad's house for a couple of days and he'd be like, do whatever the fuck you want. Like,
yeah. There's also that like aspect of like, I think there's like a little bit of like, sometimes there's resentment between the parents too, where they're like,
yeah. Oh, 100%.
Like, them. Like you're trying to punish my kid. He doesn't deserve to be punished. Like and they kind of just want to like get back at them a little bit by like letting you do shit.
Yeah. Like there was one time my mom took my brother's phone away and my dad was like, well, do you want a new phone? It's like, fuck. But it's,
that's hilarious.
It's kind of interesting. Like it changes the whole dynamic. And then I don't know if you picked up on this, but my little brother did more than I did. He kind of started realizing how he can play the two against each other. And now I think that that's kind of been, I wouldn't say he's manipulative. I would say he has like a manipulative side if he doesn't control it, but he's very, very good at influencing people and like that kind of whole sales concept of like getting what he wants. Like,
oh dude, he's going to kill it online then.
Oh dude, once he like hits it and gets going, he's going to be fucking rich. Like, not a doubt in my mind, as long as he can focus.
I would say that's probably like one of the biggest factors for sure. Is just that kind of like curiosity to be able to change the way people do things and like to be able to persuade people and influence people. And there definitely is a dark side to that because it can definitely be for good or evil. But I think that if you have that's just kind of like an insatiable curiosity and like you're just going to constantly be figuring out how to do things better. And if you think like that, like you're going to succeed 100%.
Yeah. As long as you just like keep focusing, stay a little humble, right? Be willing to fail.
Definitely.
Just keep moving forward.
That's cool. So from freelancing to drop shipping to info products, do you feel like it's always been obvious what comes next? Like from freelance to drop shipping and drop shipping to info products? Or do you feel like you kind of almost stumble from one thing into the other? Stumbles might be the wrong word. It's more of a serendipity is also the wrong word. Somewhere in between those two.
Yeah, no, I think I know what you mean. I would say it was, to me, it was very clear because I think what I did is I kind of like sought out like role models and people who were already where I wanted to be,
Mm.
and then basically just like copied what they were doing. So at first it made a lot of sense. Like when I was first getting started and I had no idea what I wanted to do, it made absolutely no sense. Like I didn't know what I was going to do. But then I was, found Ben Settle and then, realized that, okay, I really resonated with his stuff. I was like, okay, so I can do this, right? And that seemed like a really good way to start because it was basically free. Like you don't need, money to start start cold emailing people and pitching an offer.
Mm-hmm.
So that made a lot of sense to me. And then I think drop shipping definitely did make sense because it's, I wanted to do something that wasn't reliant directly on my time, because as a freelancer, you're still, even though you have that like location independence if you're a freelancer, but you're not getting paid, in your sleep when you're not working. You're only getting paid when you're actually doing projects and, stuff like that, unless you're getting like royalties or something. But that was kind of like, that made a lot of sense to me. And then, yeah, I mean, I feel like for the most part, I've kind of had like a somewhat of a plan, like kind of from here, what I want to do. I guess I had a little bit of confusion, like, once I was doing drop shipping pretty successfully, I didn't really know what I wanted to do after that. Maybe I wanted to go into software, or, do something different. I've always wanted to start like a direct mail business. So there's a couple other things that I wanted to do, but I would say that it kind of made sense to me to kind of go from like beginner stuff that's, free to start, easy to, to get started with, doesn't cost any money. From that to something a little bit more scalable that does require money, but still doesn't require you to, put up a shit ton of money up front for inventory. And then from that to, where I'm at now, which is, like a real e-commerce brand with inventory, like that seems like the obvious next step there is to turn, a drop shipping store to, a real e-commerce brand.
Right.
And then after that, I mean, my kind of like long-term plan is really just to, take my money basically from online, continue to grow and scale my businesses, and then just invest that money into multifamily real estate.
Nice.
And then do the whole, Uncle Grant Cardone style type thing, kind of live off that.
That's cool.
Nice, man.
So I did drop shipping for a little bit. I don't know, might have been 2 years ago now, and made some money from it. But I actually, I stopped after probably 2 months, might have been even less than that, just because I did not love that business model. Like I didn't love the whole shipping takes 2 to 4 weeks because we're in such high demand, and the fake countdown timers and all that kind of stuff. How did you kind of balance that with the fact that you were making so much money? Because a lot of drop shippers just get started by being dishonest, and then you have to kind of reel that in.
Yeah.
I feel like to be successful long term as a drop shipper, you have to figure out a way around that, because people are going to figure out, now that drop shipping is all over the place. People just figure it out, oh, it takes 2 to 4 weeks. Why don't I just go buy this from China direct myself?
Or from Amazon Prime or something.
Right. So
Right.
Did you ever feel that kind of tension, and how did you kind of work around that?
I didn't at first, because to me, I didn't even really think about that.
Right.
I was just like, oh, this is awesome. Like, blah, blah, blah. You can make money, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't really think about the other side of things, I guess, the ethical side of things.
Right.
And then I started watching these guys on YouTube and stuff like that. And then I started realizing, oh, this can be kind of sketchy.
For sure.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that, you said, to be successful long-term as a drop shipper, I honestly think that that's probably an oxymoron. Long-term can be successful with drop shipping, because you're just gonna, I guess you could, but you'd have to constantly be,
you have to do your own fulfillment,
building new stores. And yeah, you could do stuff like that. You could continue to do it the traditional way if you wanted to, but you would just have to be constantly churning and burning stores, because, you're going to have issues with the products, with customer, with, shipping, with people not getting the products and everything like that.
Right.
And that wasn't really something that I worried about, because I was just I was so focused on being able to support myself. So that didn't really, occur to me until probably a couple months later. And then I kind of realized oh shit. So this is it's not super sketchy. It can be. I think it depends on how you do it. If ultimately, the way I kind of look at it is, if you are selling a product, right? If you're advertising a product and that product is, you're advertising it accurately. It's, the actual product that you're selling is just like the product that you're advertising. You're not misleading people. Ultimately, like people say that it's like you're like scamming people because you're buying it off of AliExpress and then, selling it for a higher price. I think that's the dumbest thing in the entire world, because that's what every single business does.
Right.
It's all high.
Right.
Yeah. That's like, retarded, I think.
What a grocery store does.
Oh
yeah, exactly. So I think that's a dumb argument. But I would say that like the unethical part could come in if the product was really low quality, and if your supplier isn't actually shipping the product, which tends to happen, right? It gets lost or whatever. And we had some issues with that as well, especially over like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, when we'd scaled up to like the pretty crazy numbers. And that was a huge learning experience for me, because I didn't realize what it took on the customer service side of things and the potential issues that you could have with shipping and fulfillment when you're not in control of it whatsoever. When you're just kind of at the mercy of that. So that was one of the big factors that made me want to switch from drop shipping to, a real e-commerce brand, to be able to have control over that and be able to deliver a product that people actually really like and that people will, tell their friends about and, give 5-star reviews, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say, like, I don't know. I think that ultimately, like, the way I see things is there's always going to be people out there who are going to be buying stuff like that. And like, I don't know if this is a bad way to look at it or not, maybe a little cynical, but it's like, someone's going to be making money from people buying these random Chinese products.
Might as well be me.
Yeah. I mean, like that's, I feel kind of like a shithead saying that, because it's kind of shitty in some senses, but ultimately I think if you're delivering on the product that you say you are, and you're not doing anything super sketchy, then I don't really see too big of a problem with it. The problem is the type of person that dropshipping tends to attract isn't always the most ethical, high quality person. So I think there's definitely some issues there, and I don't think that that'll ever really go away. I think that that's just kind of the nature of people when you have an ability to make money, in a somewhat like easy way. There's always going to be people who are going to take advantage of that and exploit that in kind of a negative way. But I think like ultimately it kind of comes to the consumer. It always comes back to the consumer. To me, it's like, as a consumer, you're constantly being bombarded with advertising and people trying to convince you to buy their products. And it's up to the consumer to be able to, determine what's good and what's bad and what's actually worth it or not. Because ultimately, if you leave that up to the companies, they're not going to, companies aren't going to abide by those rules because they're incentivized to make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my take on that, I would say.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of people too say that like, oh, you're just selling shitty Chinese products, but like, fucking,
they're not that shitty. Like I buy my
that's a misconception too.
Now.
Well, and like,
I know they're $1.
Dude, every company does that. Like, there's so many companies out there. Like, how many things have you bought that just has that little "Made in China" sticker on it? It's like that's the same fucking thing. You're just cutting out.
Most of the clothes I'm wearing right now, like,
yeah,
I'm sitting
like
in.
This T-shirt was probably made in Taiwan or something. It's like,
well, and that's where I think you can really differentiate yourself by actually like ordering the product yourself and getting a sample and like doing your own kind of quality assurance check. And if you really care that much, like that you don't want these people to get sunglasses that have like Ching Chong. I'm sorry, that's the most racist thing I'm ever going to say this week. Like it's got Chinese writing on it and some random letters put together to sound like a brand. And like, do you really want your customers to see that if you've got like whatever e-com store? No, like you should get a sample, contact that supplier and be like, hey, can you just put custom branding on it like Dan's glasses? Like it's not that hard to do that. It's not like they're going to charge you $100 more per sunglasses. Like what are they going to charge you? 50 cents more maybe per set? Like it's not that hard to differentiate yourself in that world. It's just that people are like, oh, easy money, let me do drop shipping, and not care about any of the details. Like all they see is dollar signs.
And I would say that this isn't even applicable to like 90% of people who are drop shipping, because most people don't even ever get to the point where they're doing enough volume for it to even be like a thing. Like, like the way that I kind of look at it is like product quality wise, like obviously you don't want to be selling a low quality product, not because of the ethical side of things necessarily, because like obviously you have that, but because if you're actually doing that at scale, that's not going to work out for you. Because if you're selling a shit product, people are going to get it. You're going to get a shit ton of refunds and you're going to lose a shit ton of money. And it's not going to work out that well. So that's definitely one aspect to it. But ultimately, I think they're like, yeah, we all buy shit from China. Everything is from China. And I think that like there are low quality products, obviously from China, but just because it's from China doesn't mean it's low quality. You can get there's really high quality products on AliExpress.
There's low quality products in the U.S.
Absolutely,
100%. That's kind of interesting because like something that we've been doing with Ground Shark is like we refuse to let the product, like the cost of the coffee, like the raw coffee, actually affect whether or not we buy it. So like our green coffee, unroasted coffee costs between maybe $1 a pound for something like Folgers to we're kind of in between $3 and $4. And then we've got a special release coming out that we paid $6 a pound to buy. And that's before our roasting and everything else cost. And then that gets passed on to the consumer a little bit. Like you're paying for really fucking good coffee. And like the product quality issue is kind of an interesting thing because we're over here paying like a significant portion of money for the product. And we're still like, it's still like a grind day in and day out, figuring out how to sell it. And it's like this
unintended.
Yeah, right. This is like high quality stuff. And it's still, it doesn't just happen overnight, right? It's not like, hey, this is good coffee. And people are like, cool, I'll just buy it. It's like, that's where the copywriting comes in. It's like, how do you convince someone else that your coffee is worth paying twice, 3 times, 4 times as much as you're paying for that Folgers tin at the store? And
right.
It's
tough, man. It's tough. I've experienced that too. I didn't even think about that too much because with dropshipping, you don't really think about like margins that much. You're just like, okay, the product costs this much. I can spend this much on ads to get this sale at this price.
Yeah.
And I'm, straight. But then when you go and you buy inventory, like the products that we're selling now, they cost us almost double what they did before because, we did a lot of stuff and made them out of higher quality materials, had like, more attention to detail in like the manufacturing process, custom packaging, and everything like that. So that was something that I didn't really think about. And then the cost was so much more than I expected. And then, obviously that's not ideal. And you have to think like sometimes I think people like just because it's higher quality doesn't mean people are going to be willing to pay more for it.
Right.
They might be fine with their current quality and they
the higher quality means nothing to them until they get the crappy one and it breaks down on them. They're like, well, why isn't this better?
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's habit too, right? Like you're ingrained to spend X amount on your coffee or X amount on whatever it is. And then you see something that's higher than that, you immediately get sticker shock, even if it's worth it. Like I think perfect example is this mug that I've been drinking out of. This, like we're selling this, well, we were selling it at Inns today, but selling this for $35 a mug, but it costs us like $20 to get these because they're handmade by this chick out in Portland, Oregon, and they're really fucking awesome quality and stuff. And like, but people don't want to spend $35 on a coffee mug, right? Some people do. And like, those are our customers, the people who do, but like,
right.
It's like limited because people don't always pay for quality. They pay for whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's ultimately what you have to do. Like, and that's been my goal in all my businesses is to find the people who, and it's a very small subsection of people, but the people who are actually, would rather pay more when they see 2 options. You want the person who sees the more expensive option and just buys that one just because they just know it'll be better quality because it's more expensive, or, they think that's kind of like the implication.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not nearly as many people like that as there are, the opposite who just see the lower price and automatically buy that because it's the cheaper one.
Right.
So I think that's kind of why you have to really cultivate, a certain brand image and, your messaging and everything like that. Your marketing has to be really targeted towards, a really high quality consumer who is, actually going to spend that money to get that quality.
That's something that we're like still figuring out. We're still learning and building a luxury brand. Like there's a lot of attractiveness there, right? Because your markups are higher, and your customer service is way less of an overhead problem, right? Because I don't think I've had anyone, maybe 1 or 2 people tell me that they didn't like the coffee, right? And like that's huge. We never get anybody asking any kind of weird questions like that, or like, can I get a refund? I don't like this, whatever. Like people are happy with the product,
right?
But since it is like a higher quality thing, it's more overhead on our end getting it up and running, and I think it's kind of easy to overlook that luxury brands are luxury because they've got a name, and that name doesn't just happen overnight. That name happens over decades.
No.
It
Definitely
happened
not.
for a long time.
Yeah,
I've
man.
seen that play
It's
out
so
a
true.
lot.
It's so true. Cause I mean, and that's something I'm realizing too, with my brand is before it was just really easy to just throw up ads, throw up a landing page, get traffic to it, people would buy. Right. But then when you're trying to, when you have a higher price, higher quality and everything like that, it doesn't just work out just like that because, there aren't those people, the people who were buying before, they were just buying because the price was low. Right.
Yeah.
And then when you're trying to actually cultivate a customer base of people who are really high quality people who are willing to spend that extra little bit to get that, extra quality, it definitely takes time and it definitely is something that you kind of have to build up. And I don't think that, that definitely does not happen overnight by any means.
No. And you get away from the impulse buy. I mean, if you're selling something that's cheap, if it's cheaper than what they're already buying, like if it's a cheaper watch or a cheaper pair of sunglasses or cheaper coffee or whatever it is, if it's cheaper than what they're already buying, they're way more likely to make an impulse buy. But if it's more expensive than what they're buying, that's when they start digging in. That's when they start looking at the details and wondering why this says this, but this says that or whatever. It's like everything's got to be on point, and that just takes time.
Yeah, man. And it also takes more touch points too. Like,
Definitely.
Before someone might buy, they just see your website and they just, like that. But then if you have a high quality product like that, it's more expensive. It's going to take someone to come to your website once, be like, oh, that's cool, but that's kind of expensive. I don't think I want that. So then you have to hit them again. Right?
Yeah.
Hit them again, hit them again, hit them again.
Yeah.
And that's only getting, more challenging and more important because, the more time goes on, the more marketing messages people are getting subjected to. Like, I don't know how many it is on average a day, hundreds or thousands. Everyone's trying to get you to buy their shit. So
yeah. Dude, and I keep seeing more and more ads for like coffee brands kind of like ours where it's targeted at certain groups of people. And it's like there's a lot of doubt in my mind that any of those are as good as ours, but that's because I'm a fucking motherfucker. But point is, like,
if you don't think you're the best, then I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't relate. I think that's definitely a mindset.
Yeah, no.
You don't think you're
you see that with fighters and stuff too. I know, Nick,
yeah.
you're into jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Like, you see that with fighters, and like, I forgot who this was. It was like an interview I was watching or something, and he was just like, "I'm the best." Like,
yeah,
I'm the best. And think that you're the best, then like we don't, we're not the same.
That was pretty much every fighter in the UFC, whatever, or any high level.
Deontay Wilder is the first one that comes to mind right now.
Yeah. But it's everyone at any kind of high level. They have to have that like just blind faith that just says no matter fucking what, I'm gonna get this done. Like I am the best. If someone beats me, it's because I had an off night, or I need to go back to the drawing board and figure out one little thing. But like at the end of the day, I'm the best. And it's
probably the most tweetable thing that's been said in this podcast is if you don't think you're the best, I can't relate.
That's hilarious.
It's true though, man. Like that's the mindset you have to have, because if you don't think like that, then you're not going to be, out there doing everything you can to the best of your ability every single day to be the best.
Yeah.
If you just think that you're okay, then you're just going to be okay. And like, I think that's like where it all comes back to is the way that you think and your mindset. Like that's so important. And that's why I've tried to take a more cover that more in my content as opposed to just like hard tactics, because to me, that's the most important part. I think that's the part that really is what most people struggle with, and what prevents most people from succeeding is their mindset. Because all the information is out there, right? All the information you need to succeed with copywriting, e-com, drop shipping, whatever, it's all out there. And, you can get it for free, you can pay for a course, whatever, but all the information that you need is out there. It's ultimately, I think that the biggest battle is just overcoming your own fucking mind, because, the way that we're programmed and the way that society, programs us is like basically the exact opposite of what you need, how you need to think to, be successful at something like this.
Well, and not only that, but like with your parents, right? When you were first telling them like, I'm going to do this, they obviously doubted you, and they're your parents. Like they're supposed to, or they're supposed to have like a lot of faith in you. Right. And like, I'm sure they did, but they still had those doubts because you're doing this like crazy thing that they had never expected you to do. And you're like dropping out of college and all of that. And like, it's hard to keep that faith when the people close to you don't, but at the same time, like you can't expect someone else to have that blind faith in yourself like you do. It's kind of hard to rationalize those when you're starting out.
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually, I didn't mention this, but that was why when I dropped out of school, I didn't tell anyone. My parents
Yeah.
were the only people that knew. I'm talking, I lived with four guys at the time. My roommates didn't know that I dropped out of school. My best friends didn't know that I dropped out of school. I didn't tell a single soul. And they would ask me, like, I had my class schedule, so that I only had class 2 days a week. So I would just like stack my classes 2 days a week. So then like my roommates would come down and be like, you got class today? And I would just always be like, nope, not today. Just like every single day. And
Not ever mother effers.
So yeah, and I did that really intentionally because I knew that like if I told people like that, there's nothing good that's going to come of that. And I tweet that, I tweet that a fair amount. I think that's a really good reminder that no one gives a shit, and no one's going to like unless you have some really, really good friends. And I hope that people do, because people say that all the time, like when I tweet stuff like that, like you need to get new friends. Yeah, sure, but ultimately, I think most people don't have those types of really, really, really good friends who are going to be there for you and support you in whatever it is that you do, no matter what. And it's not just like, maybe you have close friends like that, but then you have just like, okay, like friends, acquaintances and stuff. Majority of people are going to see that. And then they're going to be like, my thinking was they were just going to be like, have some negative shit to say about it, or like, oh, haha, yeah, good luck with that. Or, whatever. And it didn't make sense to me to subject myself to that negativity when I could just keep it to myself. And then I could just, basically immerse myself in this entire online world, and all this like positivity that was on Twitter and stuff. And that ultimately, I think that was one of the best decisions I made, because it prevented me from ever having to second guess what I was doing, because no one was telling me, this isn't going to work, or give me any sort of negativity, because no one knew about it. And it was just me and my parents. And like, that was it for like, I think 2 to 3 months. And then I told my best friend, because my laptop broke and he let me borrow his. And that was when I told him. And before that, I didn't tell anyone. And I think that was again, like one of the best things I ever did.
Yeah.
How old are you? 22?
Yeah. 22 now.
Man, if I could pay to go back to being 22 and having that mindset shift, because like I 100% on board with you. Like I've spent the last basically decade working in marketing jobs, and it wasn't really until I made that mindset shift of realizing that like I'm a fucking champion. Like I am the best.
I'm the
And
goddamn
the rest
man.
of you, right? Like I'm the fucking lizard. And I didn't have that.
I'm the fucking lizard kid.
I didn't have that mindset, a year and a half ago. And since I've kind of just gotten off my ass and stopped waiting for things to get handed to me and just had that simple shift, everything's changed. But if I'd had that 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, oh my gosh, I'd be so much further ahead than I am right now. And I think that is 100%. You're so spot on. Like that is the one thing that holds 99% of people back. It's not that they need more tactics. It's not that they need more education. It's not that they need to learn what this guru online has. They just simply have to believe in themselves and know, like, I'm legit the fucking best at this, and I'm going to do what I set out to do, and that's going to be the difference maker. It's just my mindset and showing up consistently.
And I think I honestly, I want to credit my parents for that, because I think that they really helped to instill that in me. And it's cliche, because everyone tells you, you can do whatever you want to do in life. You can be whatever you want to be, blah, blah, blah.
No one believes that, though.
No one believes it, and no one really internalizes it. But it's just funny, man, because I see people just like DMing me and stuff, and they're like talking about like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't believe myself, blah, blah, blah. And it's just hard for me to relate, because like for example, the first copywriting client that I went out to get, like I'd say like most people would probably offer to work for free, or they would try to get some kind of like a low paying, something just to kind of get their feet wet. I went in and I charged this company $300 to write one email. And I told them that it was a discount off my normal rate. And I had this whole sheet set up. I just literally like made up numbers, like what sounded right, like for one email, 2 emails, whatever, like an email campaign. And you just have to go in there with that confidence. And if you act like you know what you're doing, and it's like sort of like it's a balance of like fake it till you make it, but also being able to back up what you're saying that you can do.
Yeah.
But I just went in like that. And then, most people would have been like, I've seen people say that, you shouldn't charge until you have the results to prove it. I didn't have the results to prove it. I had nothing. But I knew that I'd been learning this stuff, and I was confident that I could go out there and get results like that. So I went for it. And, I charged them $300 for that email, and it ended up generating them like 3,000. So
Worth it for them.
It worked out.
Yeah.
And I think that that's ultimately like, yeah, I feel really blessed to have kind of had that, that kind of mindset just instilled in me. And it's something that you constantly have to work on too. It's not something that's like, you just have, and it's like that. It's something that you constantly have to, continue to work on, through the ups and downs and everything like that. But I would say, yeah, that's definitely like probably the biggest thing that prevents people from actually doing anything.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother-in-law recently. This is my wife's younger brother, and he's been doing these interviews recently, and just not like, their family's highly, highly introverted, all of them. And so they're not great with like talking to strangers or doing interview type stuff. And so I went down and had lunch with him, and he was like, so how do you get yourself ready for like, pitching somebody a proposal for freelance work, or if you're going to interview or to speak in front of a group of people, what do you do? And I was like, honestly, I used to just be shaking in my boots and like pit sweat everywhere. Like I just literally get the shakes and nervous farts. I was just disgusting before.
I get those too. I get those
the worst.
And
I was like, but since I've made this mindset shift, I literally am like, when I'm going to those meetings or I'm about to get on that call, I take the 5, 10, 15 minutes before, and I just sit in a room by myself or whatever. And I'm just like, you got this shit. Like, you're the fucking boss. They need what you got. Like, you got this. Ain't no problem.
Fucking man, dude.
Right. Like, I'm the man. I've got this. And I was like, that works for you. And I was like, it works for everyone that does it. But most people are like you, and they'll never understand it. They'll never get it. They'll think it's silly, or that it's stupid, or that I'm just a prick for doing that stuff, and I'm an egotistical a-hole. And I was like, but it works for me. So, and it works for all these other people who are rich as hell. Like, there's people
Dude,
$50,000 keynotes, and they still get nervous before, but they figured out like they're the freaking boss, and they tell themselves that, and it works. So why do you think you're better than the rest of us? Just pump yourself up. Like, stop blowing smoke up your own ass.
I will say, to add to that, especially on your last note, blowing smoke up your own ass, you gotta do the work to prove it to yourself too. At least I know I do. Like, one of my favorite quotes is play like a champion, train like a contender. Like, if you're training like you're in second place, if you're practicing, if you're learning, if you're studying, if you're watching film, or if you're watching like videos and like taking courses and always teaching yourself and always learning, like you're in second place. But then when it's game time and you go out there and you write the email, or you go for whatever the hell it is, like whether it's business or anything else, like when you go out into the real world and you're playing like you're the champion, but you've got that body of work to back it up, that's where like that magic happens, where you're just unfucking stoppable at that point.
Dude, 100%. I think that's the challenge for people, is that they don't know how to act like that before they have that body of work built up, before they have something to show for it.
Oh yeah. I've definitely struggled with that. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just like,
fake it till you make it.
In some ways, it is a fake it till you make it kind of thing. Like, you have to act like that before, it's like, I guess, like the chicken or the egg, like, which comes first. Yeah. You have to be able to act like that and think like that in order to get to that place where you actually have that body of work and you have those results and stuff. Because it's going to be really tough to get there otherwise. It's going to take you forever, and you're just going to like do things that you shouldn't be doing, and you're going to make it take way longer than it could, because you don't think like that. And I think part of it comes back to too, that people don't really like realize, and I'd say this is like people in general, not like in our corner of Twitter or whatever, because I think that people do realize this, but they don't realize like how much they're being programmed, and how like everything that all their life experiences, all the things that they're exposed to, media, their parents, society, teachers, everything like that. I don't think people really realize how much all that stuff affects who they become and the way that they think and the way that they are. And that you can change those inputs, whatever's coming into your brain, and you can basically make yourself whatever you want to be just by changing what you let into your brain and what you let, affect you and influence you and like program you, basically.
Definitely. And you can like almost reverse the programming, right? Program yourself, like with affirmations and stuff. My issue with affirmations is that a lot of people are just like, they look at something like sticky note they have that just says, I am the best. And it's like, okay, but why? Right? Like, I'm the best because I work harder than anyone else. Now you're getting somewhere, you know?
Yeah, I've never really been into affirmations like that.
Really
Like
haven't either.
like
But
sometimes maybe just be like, I don't know, just like look at yourself in the mirror, be like, I'm the fucking man.
yeah,
Like if you need a little boost or something. But like, yeah, I don't think that just like saying something is going to do a whole lot. I think that it's ultimately just it's a way to help yourself, like to almost like force yourself to actually do what you need to do to make that thing on that piece of paper happen.
right. And I think it's an interesting thing too when you tell yourself you're the best, because like you can't control how good other people are. You can only control how good you are, right? Like this was something I learned back on my college lacrosse team. We had to read this book called With Winning in Mind, and it was written by a Olympic gold medal in rifle shooting, or an Olympic gold medalist in rifle shooting. And he always like in it, he talked a lot about how like he can't control whether or not the guy next to him shoots perfect tens, right? Bullseye's 10 points. You got 10 shots, 100 points total, right? Like he can't control whether or not the guy next to him does, or even the guy next to him, or if everyone does. But what he can't control is whether or not he does, right? And so like you have to kind of refocus that like marketing and everything, where it's like you tell yourself you're the best, but like you tell yourself that because you work really hard and because you're doing everything you can to make yourself the best you possibly can. But you can't control whether or not you send out an email an hour after someone else sent an email, like cold pitching the same service better or for cheaper. Like you can't control that, but what you can control is how good your offer is. And so it's like you have to, it's like a weird dichotomy where you just really have to focus so much on everything you can control and make those things as best as you possibly can.
That's good. Nate, what do you wish you had known when you were starting out with all this online business stuff?
I would say probably like the biggest lesson that I wish I learned. So like, okay, just like a quick background. Like I wanted to be like, do the online business stuff since I was like 15 or 16. Like I had a friend in high school and like, we were really into that stuff. We wanted to do this like so bad, become millionaires. Like there's like videos of us like 16 years old, like fucking sitting on the couch, like high as shit, like just so dumb, being like, look at the camera, being like, we're going to be fucking rich. Like we're going to be fucking rich. And the
Sounds
problem
like
is,
a really riveting video.
yeah, it was pretty riveting. We're just, I wish I could find that. I doubt I have it anymore, but I just remember recording that and we were just like, we're going to be fucking rich. We don't know how, but we're going to do it. The problem was that's all we really did was we just sat on our asses and just, you know, smoked pot and just came up with ideas and like just didn't do anything about them. So I would say that the biggest lesson I think would be that probably that you don't need to invent something to make money. Because I think that a lot of people kind of get stuck in that mindset. I certainly was for years, thinking that if you want to make money, you have to go out and you have to do something new, something inventive, something that hasn't been done before. And so you're trying to come up with all these like $1 million business ideas, but it's a waste of time because as a beginner, the chances that you're able to come up with some sort of new innovative product and actually execute it to the point where it works and profitably you're able to make money, very, very, very slim. So I'd say that the biggest thing I wish I knew was that you don't have to fucking invent anything. And the easiest way is literally just to find something that's already working and then basically copy like 90% of it and then just change a little bit of it so that it's, you know, unique to you and that you're not just straight up, you know, copy pasting. Because there's so many things out there that are already working, right? We're all buying stuff every single day. People are buying billions of dollars worth of things, whatever it is. And if you're just someone who's selling it to them, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be toilet paper. It could be fucking whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. People are buying stuff all the time. And if you put yourself, you know, in that position where you're the one to sell it to them, then that's all you need. You don't need to create something new or anything innovative or anything like that. And that's like a cool thing to want to do, right? I want to do something like that and create something new and innovative and, you know, whatever. That sounds great in theory, but it's not practical when you're first starting. The you know, success stories that you hear from people who, you know, invented something and have zero business, you know, experience before that, that's very rare. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying don't go for it if that's your thing. If that's what you want to do, fucking go for it by all means. But the chances of that working out compared to if you just copy something that's already working and just do it a little bit differently, maybe do something a little bit better, change the audience that you're marketing it to, or just change, you know, the traffic source where you're getting traffic from, whatever it is, just change one little thing. Your chances of success are going to be much, much, much higher doing that because 90% of it's already figured out for you. You don't have to start from scratch. You can just take something that's already working and just do it a little bit different, do it a little bit better, and make it your own. So I'd say that's probably the biggest one.
That's great. Do you feel like the reality of wanting to be an online business like matched up with your idea of it before you had done any of it?
No, I would say I thought it would be a lot more like glamorous, I guess, because you see it all on social media and stuff. And this is so funny for me to find out, like, just in the past year. But you see all these guys on social media, especially like guys who do e-com and stuff, who, you know, are always flexing their fucking Gucci, who have sick cars, you know, penthouse views, you know, going on exotic vacations, et cetera, et cetera.
Not that you've ever done any of that, right?
Yeah. Okay. But you see that and you think that, oh my God, like that lifestyle is so dope. Like that is so much different from what I'm doing now. Like that just looks incredible. If I can do that, then like I'll be set. Like that'll be incredible. My life will be amazing. But then you get there and then you start like, you know, you start hanging out with these people who you know, used to look up to, you know, and maybe still look up to, whatever. But these people who you've seen all their social media and stuff, you see, you know, how their lifestyle looks, and then you actually spend time with them and you realize their lives pretty much just like yours. They just drive a faster car and they travel a little bit more, and, you know, they still sit on their phone way too much. They still fucking, you know, have their weird, you know, quirks about them. They're, you know, still insecure about random shit. They're still just fucking people.
Yeah.
And so I thought that once I got here that it would be like some crazy different life where I would just be like traveling the world and just fucking, you know, like living this crazy, crazy lifestyle. And then I get here and it's like, you know, I mean, a lot has changed. Don't get me wrong. Like a lot has changed. But it's, you know, I'm still the same person that I was 2-3 years ago. You know, I still have a lot of the same friends. Like I still do a lot of the same stuff. It's just a little bit different, and it's not nearly as like crazy as you think. And I think that like that's what kind of pisses me off about like all the flexing and stuff that you see on social media, because it gives off this image of, you know, your life is so much different.
24/7.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not. Those are like the little, you know, the little bits that you get to see that they want you to see. In reality, you know, that dude who just posted a pic in his fucking Lambo, like he's like deathly afraid to go out and talk to girls, or like, you know, whatever it is. Like everyone has their own, you know, their own shit that they have, their own problems, their own demons that they're dealing with, whatever.
For sure.
So I would say
It's good.
it is like it in the sense that, like, you know, you have that freedom and stuff, but I thought that my life was going to just change so drastically. And again, it kind of has, but it's not in the same way that I expected it to, if that makes sense.
For sure.
I think though, like when you get there and you look around and you're like, ah, shit, like this isn't as cool as I thought it'd be. But at the same time, like for all those listening who haven't made that or who haven't gotten there yet, it's like, on the other hand, that means it's more accessible. Like these people who you think are crushing, like some of them might be, right, and really living that like nomad lifestyle, or like The Rock is, right, where he's just doing whatever the hell he wants, or Dan Bilzerian. And it's like, yeah, at the highest level, but like most of these guys, like most of the people making their full-time living online, like you said, they're normal dudes, which kind of means if you're a normal dude, why the fuck aren't you doing it? You know, like,
Well,
Exactly.
just because you get money doesn't mean all of a sudden you have to stop working either.
right.
Which is, I think for me, that used to be the mindset for me. It was like, oh, like if I get rich, then I can just chill like these dudes all the time. But the reality is that like they're showing you the moments that they're chilling, but that's not what they're doing 24/7. They're probably still working their butts off behind the scene. They're just not showing you about it.
Well, and they probably feel like they're working when they're showing you that you're chilling. They're chilling anyway, because that's
Right.
part of the brand, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like, I still feel like when I post photos of like up in the mountains or like blog posts about it or anything like that, I still feel kind of like I'm working, because it's like that's part of what who everyone sees me as.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit, it's still there.
Yeah, I would say this is probably like sums it up the best. Is like when it was like late May of last year, and that was when kind of my stuff started taking off, and I could really support myself. Like, you know, I was not worried about, you know, anything. Like I was like, okay, I can kind of do what I want. And at the time, I thought that I just wanted to go travel the world. I was like, all right, this is dope. I can do this. I have this ability. Like, this is what I've been, you know, dreaming of.
I remember that
And
you went
then,
to New Zealand, right?
yeah, so I pack a bag or two and book a flight to New Zealand, with the plan of just kind of traveling around for the remainder of the year. And then I get there, and I had a great time there. Like, don't get me wrong, it was a fucking blast. I met a lot of great people, like had some really cool experiences. But then I realized, like, oh, this whole travel thing, it means that I can't work that much. I'm constantly trying to find a coffee shop with Wi-Fi that has decent Wi-Fi that I can actually connect to. I'm like, just don't have any sort of an optimized environment. I'm spending all this time like on in trains or buses or planes, whatever. And I realized that, like, that takes away from your ability to work. And at the time, like, that was all I wanted to do. And I mean, even to this day, it kind of still is. Like, all I wanted to do was work. Like, I was addicted. Like, I think kind of still am to a slightly lesser extent. But I thought that I would just make money and then just travel the world and it'd be fucking dope. And then I started doing it, and then I realized, like, wait, I'd rather be working than trying to fucking get Wi-Fi from this shitty coffee shop in somewhere in New Zealand. So I went to New Zealand for 2 weeks with the plans for going there. It was so embarrassing too, because I had like a going away party with a bunch of my friends and stuff, thinking I'm gonna be gone for like an entire year, and then I go there for 2 weeks, and I'm like, all right, yeah, fuck this, I'm coming back to the States.
You should have had a coming back party.
Yeah, that's now referred to as my my going away, not so going away party.
That's hilarious.
That is funny.
All right, well, we're coming up on an hour, and I know you've got a call in a little bit. So, Nick, do you want to ask your favorite question?
Yeah, I always like to finish it up with this. If you could leave with one kind of philosophical thing, one quote unquote platitude, or kind of one thought to leave everyone with that would really have changed things for you a couple years ago, or even changes things for you right now.
Most guru thing you can say.
Yeah.
Oh, let's think about this.
Take your time.
No, I would say like I'm trying to think of how to word this without sounding like super corny. But
Do
it's
it.
like
That's what platitudes are.
That's what we're here for.
Like, if you want something, just like what the fuck is stopping you from getting it? Like, you can make all these fucking excuses, and you can have all these reasons and all these justifications and that make yourself feel better for not going after what you truly want in life. But at the end of the day, like, there's nothing stopping you from getting what you want. There's absolutely nothing. The only thing stopping you is yourself. And once you realize that, and you realize that there's absolutely no excuse for not getting every single thing that you want out of life, then you're going to do what it takes to get that, whatever it is that you want. And I think that just stops most people, because they just don't think that it's possible for them because of this or because of that or because of X, Y, Z. And they have all these excuses, these things that makes them feel better. But if you do that, I mean, like, that's just the scariest concept to me is fucking lying on my deathbed knowing that I didn't achieve the things that I wanted to achieve, that I didn't do the things that I wanted to do. And it's even scary to me now. I'm 22, and I still think that I barely have any time left to do what I want to do. Like, in reality, I have like basically my entire life ahead of me. I think with the mindset that, like, every single day that I wake up, I have one less day on this earth and one less day to achieve what I want to achieve and do the things that I want to do. And so I think that if that doesn't, if that thought doesn't, get you off your ass, the thought of, like, just really think about that. Like, there's nothing worse than that. I literally don't think there's anything that could be worse than that. Is dying, living, knowing that you didn't fulfill the things that you wanted to do.
I've talked about that with one of our other guests, because I have a whiteboard in here, and every day I've got a little number in the bottom right corner, because I like looked up the average life expectancy of a white male, whatever, and it was like 78 years old or whatever. So I broke that down into days versus my age, and I've got 17,274 days until I die. I'm like,
oh, I love that.
That's not nearly as many days as I thought. I was like, I'm gonna have like 50,000 days or whatever. But I just never thought about what the math would look like in my head. I'm like, I could count to 17,000 today if I wanted to. Like, it doesn't take that long to count. Like, it's ticking every single day. And every morning I wake up, that's one less day with my wife, one less day with my son, one less day to, like, enjoy a glass of whiskey on the back porch and just chill, one less day to make money and move towards that beach house that I want. Like, I'm gonna die. Right. I need to act like it.
Yeah, man. It blows my mind that people don't act with that sort of urgency. because
Dude,
I
when
can't,
It's arrogant.
even imagine that. Like,
I don't often get to say this, but when I was your age, even just 2 years ago, I had a sense of urgency that I would say was like maybe parallel to yours, maybe a little bit less. But just fucking wait till you're 24. Like when I turned 24, I was like, oh my God, I'm almost a quarter of a century old already. Like I used to think 24-year-olds were adults. Like, holy shit. And like, obviously, like Daniel's scoffing because he's like, what, 5 years older than me? And then
29.
whatever. Yeah. But like, point is, it just every year, it's like less. Every day, it's less. Every month, it's less. Every week, it's less. Whatever it is, it's like it hits you faster and faster.
For sure.
It goes quick.
100%.
Cool. Well, Nate, thanks so much for joining us. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so people can find me online at twitter.com/ it's my last name Schmidt with a 7 for the I, SCHM7DT. And then if you want, you can also get on my email list. I also have some content on the site, not a whole lot, but if you go to nateschmidt.io, you can get my email list there. Send out emails pretty frequently, kind of talking about stuff like this. Have definitely kind of tried to shift it more towards mindset type stuff because again, like that's to me is the stuff that really is most impactful. And it's corny, and I kind of hated the idea of it at first, but I realized that that's really the thing that propels people to actually succeed. It's not the tactical shit. It's not the strategic shit. It's just being able to overcome your own fucking mind to get to where you want to be. So yeah, I'd say those are two main places: Twitter and my website, my email list.
Awesome.
Right on.
Thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. Good meeting you, Nate. Thanks for coming in, dude.
All right, guys.
Become unemployable.